Hello and welcome. One of my friends down here on the beach has just said, "Oh, sadhu, sadhu, not seen you for a long time." I said, well, it's very, very hot here. At this time of day, in the shade of this tree, it's okay. But he was referring to evening time, sitting here for meditation. And even just before sunset, just recently, it's been very hot, so I've remained in the shade of where I'm staying, just behind here in the forest. And he reminded me to drink lots of water, so thank you for that reminder. Tomorrow's video might be something slightly different because I have visitors, so rather than miss talking to you, I will see, with their permission, if I can record whatever we talk about for something perhaps not too different to this, because as you very well know by now, this is quite unrehearsed, unedited, unpracticed, so it won't be much different, but it will be an interaction with some real people. You're real also, but in front of me, sitting, asking questions with no prior warning. I think they're clever people coming from Colombo, intellectuals. And as I'm neither clever or intellectual, it might be interesting to see how they respond to my answers, because that will be the difference. There will be a response. So rather than me being able to say, practice Sila Samadhi Panya, or, well, it's anicca, dukkha, anatta, just that, they may question my answer, which should provoke maybe interesting discussion, or maybe not. We'll see. So that's something I'll try tomorrow, with their permission. And someone also asked about where to find my contact details, as I spoke of yesterday. That is in the description of this channel, my email address. Also, what is the agenda timing for videos and chanting, live chanting? This I'm not doing at the moment, live chanting, because of where I'm staying. It's very peaceful, very quiet, albeit this last few days it hasn't been that at all, being as it's been a holiday weekend. It's been a little bit more activity, music-wise and things in the background, but usually very peaceful, very quiet early in the morning. So I don't know whom may be nearby, so I don't want to disturb them with my chanting. But when I move into my new accommodation, I will be doing regular morning chanting, and that will be notified on this channel. So if you subscribe, it will no doubt tell you when the next video is coming up. Whether it be chanting, live chanting, questions and answers, or a Dharma talk, it should categorize that to some extent. So just subscribe and you should be informed. Moving on then with the comments, questions. The first one here. Blow the sand away and the ants. Hi, do animals have rebirth? And what about plants, like trees? In general, do all sentient things have the same cycle of rebirth, and how much does the law of karma apply to animals? So trees, plants, we don't consider sentient beings. The strict definition, where the line is drawn, I'm not sure. As far as monks are concerned, we cannot harm plants either. We cannot pick plants, even pick fruit from a tree, or dig the earth. But the precepts in terms of killing refer to sentient beings being creatures that have a will to live, don't want to die, have maybe a thinking brain as well as a physical body. Now, I'm not sure that a plant, I'm not saying categorically that I know, because I don't, whether a plant or a tree has the capability to think or not, but I think it is commonly understood that they don't. So the law of karma in terms of physics and science to some extent might apply to them, but for instance, if a seed chooses to sprout in an inappropriate place, which they tend not to because they're governed by external forces like water and sunshine, then it won't thrive. Whereas if it sprouts in a good place, then it will thrive. But animals, yes, they are affected by karma, and in terms of the cycle of rebirth, they will be reborn, especially as they have very little opportunity to understand the Dharma, understand the nature of existence, anicca, dukkha, and particularly anatta. An animal will truly believe it's an animal, it's a dog or a cat, and that's what it is, and possibly it has no other concept that it is just a physical body and a thinking brain, and something else is the mind that is observing that lifetime. So with little capability of understanding the Dharma to that degree, the likelihood is it will be a long time before they're given the opportunity to be reborn into, say, the human realm, where we can be fully exposed, have the opportunity to fully immerse ourselves in the teachings of the Buddha and understanding of the Dharma, and therefore the opportunity can arise for us to escape rebirth, become free from suffering in this lifetime, cut the fetters that tie us to rebirth in samsara, because we can understand the Dharma. We've been fortunate to be born into the human realm within this Buddha Sasana, this period of time when the Buddha's teachings are still available. Now, this isn't always in all times, even in the human realm. So even our timing of our birth is the result of causes and conditions that we have in past lives, previous lives, put in place that have culminated, resulted in us having this fortunate birth. This would be considered a fortunate birth. To some extent, more fortunate than that of birth into the heavenly realms or Brahmaic realms as gods and angels and devas. And therefore, we have a better opportunity. The reason? Because they have it so good, they're not experiencing so much suffering, and therefore have not so much incentive to become free from that suffering within this lifetime. I'm just wondering if, so I've got a lot of sampapalapa, blah blah blah, they describe this talking going on to my left, which maybe you can't hear, but it's awfully distracting. And as he knows what I'm doing here, I'm not sure why that is. But this is anicca, and if I allow it to be dukkha, suffering, and rather than just think of it as just additional background noise and sound, ears hearing sound, then that's how we come about with suffering. Of course, in these Deva realms and Tusita heavens and such like, then there is so much less suffering. They are so much longer. Again, less chance. So it is indeed, this is the most fortunate realm to be born in, and to be able to become free from the cycle of rebirth. But say, for instance, a dog or a cat is born to life in a monastery, and maybe even though it's difficult for them, are less prone to going hunting, killing for their own food, less prone to, let's say, breaking the precepts as far as they can break precepts as in the animal realm, but in a more wholesome environment, exposed to monastic life and the Dharma, then they indeed stand so much more chance of being born into a better form of rebirth. In terms of the law of karma, now that does affect animals as much as it affects human beings. Remember, this is also the law of nature. It is also the law of physics and science. It's not something we believe in. It is difficult to fully understand how karma and its results work, and the Buddha said don't try too hard to get to the bottom of it, because of the different levels of karma. In that karma which has its direct results and response and effect, through your actions of body, speech and mind. What may result could be instant. If you insult someone, they may insult you back. If you hurt someone, they may hurt you back. However, you may insult someone without them knowing and think you've got away with it, but you certainly have not, because you have created bad karma. This will catch up with you later. How that will manifest itself is hard to determine, and something that you perhaps would struggle to work out, understand, so the Buddha advises against it. But indeed, animals are subject to this karma just as much as we are human beings. Venerable monk, are you enlightened, or have you unlocked any stages of awakening? So we don't answer as monks these questions. The other subscribers who've answered the question on my behalf refer you to the Vinaya, the monastic rules, which prohibit and advise against monks discussing their own attainments, either even levels of attainments in meditation, and various stages of enlightenment and such like, because it is irrelevant. And I would discourage lay people alike also to firstly not discuss their own attainments, and to perhaps I would discourage you from paying much attention to anybody whom discusses their attainments, because there is no point to that. There is no need for that, other than to reaffirm the opposite of enlightenment, which is a personality view, to reaffirm a form of conceit, whether you are lower or higher than someone else in terms of meditative ability or attainments, and all that goes contrary to enlightenment and those various stages would be contained in that discussion thereof. So therefore it is not something that would happen. So anyone proclaiming or talking about their own attainments is clearly not attained in any way, shape or form. Otherwise they wouldn't be discussing it. But there is a rule as well against that too. Well, I've done something different here to make my question. Well, can you make a video on if the suttas are infallible and inerrant? So by that I think you mean if the suttas are totally accurate and never wrong, so unequivocally to be believed, but not believed, known, understood as fact. Now I cannot speak of each and every sutta to say that is the facts, because of course where the suttas have been in a fact orally transmitted over many decades, actually hundreds of years prior to them first being written down, there's going to be some element of error. However, they are quite accurate if you understand them. Some will allude to things. They may be, allegory, or similes, or stories to illustrate a point. So one has to accept some, we say in English, poetic license, meaning that don't take everything so literally. Largely speaking, one can take the entire Sutta Pitaka and say, yes, it's pretty accurate. It is right. But I wouldn't say that, because someone could pick one little example of a story and say, well, of course, that might not have happened, or couldn't have happened, or is unlikely to have happened. Of course, that will be the case in any writing about any subject matter from different points of view, after it's been transmitted, especially in the fashion and the way it was originally written down. and then translated into many different languages ever since. There's going to be some error. But the core teachings of the Buddha contained therein, the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. By the very nature of the Four Noble Truths, and this is what the Buddha teaches in 184,000 different suttas, they are only teaching that there is suffering and an end of suffering. Or expanding upon that, there is suffering, a cause of suffering, an end of suffering, and the path leading to the end of suffering, the Noble Eightfold Path. There is no disputing that. It is the truth. And this is what each and every one of the suttas is directing our attention towards, is trying to train us in the Noble Eightfold Path of right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditation, in order to, in summary, be practicing moral virtue, sila, samadhi, meditation, and panya, developing wholesome mind states and reducing unwholesome mind states. With this, we develop wisdom, the ability to see clearly through a less confused mind, less deluded mind, a mind that sees the reality of impermanence, anicca, the reality of suffering, dukkha, and the reality that we are not this actual personality we perceive ourselves to be, just the result of causes and conditions we have put in place, whether morally or immorally. This is how we have ended up. This is the results, vipaka, results of our karma, actions. Seeing this clearly, vipassana, to see clearly, is a true wisdom, not an intellectual acquisition of knowledge, but a true wisdom, wise understanding of the nature of existence, specifically in our case human existence, and where we can see the way out of rebirth through understanding how, if we can eradicate desire for things we don't need, desire that we just want to try and satisfy insatiable cravings and thirst, unquenchable thirst. And this is not possible. When we see the truth in this, we're witnessing the truth. That is what's contained in the suttas. That is undeniably, what were your words? That's infallible, that's inerrant. The dots over the I's and the crosses on the T's, the phraseology, the references to cattle or to crops growing, the smelting of gold, the size of oceans and the content of the Ganges, and all of this that may be referred to by way of illustrating these points could be, of course, disputed and could be mistranslated and could be indeed misunderstood by ourselves. But the general idea is it's only discussing what can be proven scientifically and experientially by ourselves, seen and understood. So I didn't get up and go and ask Aruna, my friend here on the beach, to stop Sampa palappering and yabbiting on. This is exercising a degree of restraint. I hope it's not disturbing for you. It's actually not disturbing for me, and it is more the people listening that I'm thinking of, because the microphone setup here is a little bit unusual, in that someone did comment that there's no blanking out now, or noise reduction as they call it. Well, the way I get around that is I use both of the microphones. One is with you over there on the phone, over there by the phone, to pick up the ambient surrounding sounds, and the other one is here clipped onto my robes to pick up my voice. But that's gone against me today because I wasn't expecting people over there to be talking. So there we go. This teaches me for trying to be clever, which I'm not. We'll see what happens about that tomorrow. How do I know your email or the chanting schedule or other online in-person events? So I've done that one, haven't I? Covered that, yes. So look at the channel description page and subscribe. What is your opinion on Sermon of the Mount from the Bible? Sermon on the Mount, I think. I don't know. What is my opinion of it? I don't have an opinion on it. It's not one particular sermon. It's described as such, Sermon on the Mount. I think it's a collection of different teachings, the teachings of Jesus, from his, as a result of his 40 days and nights of austerity, I think, in the desert. But I'm not sure. I've forgotten all my Bible teachings from a long time ago. So I don't have an opinion. It's, though, a different religion, so why should I? I don't research all religions. I have experience of Christianity and Sermon of the Mount, for example. It contains in it the Lord's Prayer. It comes from that. It also, I think, contains, I think it's where a good understanding, or at least some of the 10 Commandments are referred to, or at least the moral side. Sila, we call it in Buddhism, of Christianity. Well, Sila in Buddhism is very simple. You don't kill anything, steal anything, commit sexual misconduct, so harm anyone in that respect. You don't tell lies, and you don't take intoxicants. That's simple, isn't it? That's all there is. I can't even remember the 10 Commandments. They include not murdering and not having adulterous affairs. They include not coveting other people's goods, so that kind of covers stealing. It doesn't include the use of intoxicants, because that's okay, it's acceptable, it's part of the religious ceremony to drink wine representing Christ's blood in church, so that couldn't be anything wrong with that. And in fact, it's not morally wrong necessarily in Buddhism, but it's included as the 5th precept because it can lead to breaking the other 4 precepts. And we don't need to discuss that, argue that. We know that, don't we? That's why people drink, why we used to or have drank in the past, to lower our inhibitions, make us less careful, less inhibited, less restrained, less mindful, in order to have more of a fun, good time, which generally can, as a result of this, go the wrong way and lead to the breaking of the first 4 precepts. No killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, or lying. So I could only draw comparisons, but there's no point drawing comparisons to Buddhism, which has no theistic beliefs. There is no single God or creator God to believe in, or any belief whatsoever necessary in order to be a practicing Buddhist. Just an understanding of what I just described, the 4 Noble Truths, and the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path is all that is required to be a Buddhist. In other religions, including all of them, one is required to believe in a God, a higher power, a saviour, a creator, a miracle worker, whatever. It's required that one believes in something that cannot be proven. It may be that you've received your own form of proof, or there is something that has convinced you in these beliefs. But that doesn't prove it to me. I ask of no one to prove it to me, because there is no need, if you are practicing a morally virtuous life within Buddhist practice, to have such beliefs to become content and lead a very happy and harmless existence, harmless towards yourself and towards others. So indeed, if there is a God, at your death, I'm sure he wouldn't have held that against you. However, within the form of Christianity, it is a requirement to swear that you have this unequivocal belief and faith in the God and the Saviour, and so on and so forth, the teachings of the Bible. So I have no opinion on it. It's not my place to. And it doesn't directly compare to Buddhism in any way, what I know of it, which is limited, only because it's quite vast in what it covers. Oh, I think I've come to an end of the comments. Just check. Yes. So please keep watching this space for any further announcements with regards to your notifications you might get, which will update you as to what's coming next. In the meantime, I hope if there's something I've spoken about today, there's something there you can find useful and use it and share it if necessary. If not, then just let it go and leave it be. And also the background noise, I hope it wasn't too disturbing for you today, and you were able to pick up at least most of what I've been talking about. So be happy and stay well until next time. Sukhi Hotu.